Welcome to Quantum Revenue Expansion, where we keep you motivated, inspired, and thinking big. Up-leveling into quantum revenue is a choice that we can all make in any moment, and then continue to make that choice to stay in that space each day. On this podcast, Ursula will share revenue growth strategies to reach your next level and introduce you to CEOs just like you who are making it happen. What's your next quantum leap going to be? See it, own it, and take that first step. If this is you, then Ursula wants to invite you to join us at the next 2X Intensive now. Go to salescoachnow.com/apply. You are listening to Quantum Revenue Expansion with your host, Ursula Menchez. Let's go.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Quantum Revenue Expansion podcast. Super excited to have you back with us today. And I'm really excited because we have a very popular guest. She's popular in our community. She's popular amongst all of our listeners. We have the very cool, very amazing Rebekah Hall with us today. Good morning, Rebekah.
Good morning.
It's early where she is, so we have to whisper.
That's
so here's the thing. The last time Rebekah was here, we talked about the 7 secrets to scaling your business and received a lot of positive feedback from all of you, and people shared it. And it was, very exciting. It was one of our most listened to podcasts. So I've been thinking a lot about what else can we talk about? There's so much. Like when Rebekah and I sit down and look at what we can talk about, the list is long, but we thought we'd come back and dig into the saboteurs, right? We're still in a very interesting time in the world as we record this. It's, the end of May 2022. And while we've come out of the pandemic, the world is still different. There's a new normal. Inflation is high, right? There's kind of, things people talking about. Is it going to be a recession? What's going to happen? We have war in the world. There's a lot of things going on. And yet, here's what I can tell you. Our clients who are doing the work and staying focused on their business are still having their best years ever in business, their best months in business. They're doubling, they're tripling, they're quadrupling their monthly revenue. Some of them have been on the podcast. You've heard from them. They've shared their experiences. And so we wanted to bring that conversation to all of you today. So we're going to talk about the 7 saboteurs of scaling your business with the 2 of us today. So it's really going to be a conversation. We have our coffee. I'm hoping Rebekah has her chai tea with her today. And
it's after the holiday. I'm hydrating.
Oh, she's hydrating. She's got water. I got it. I have my water too. I have so many things. I have my protein shake. I got my water. But we're going to dig into this conversation, and I'm going to invite you to get out a pen and paper because I guarantee you're going to want to take some notes. Now, before we dive into this very interesting conversation, let me say this. Well, this is part 1. We're going to do 2 parts to this. We simply can't fit it all into one conversation. So this week will be part 1. Part 2 will be next week, of course. We won't keep you hanging for that long. If you haven't yet, though, go to ursulainc.co/apply. I invite you to apply to attend the next 2X Intensive. It's coming up in July. It's going to be here before we know it. Rebekah and I love teaching the 2X Intensive. It's 2 days. It's virtual, so it doesn't matter where you are in the world. You can come and hang out with us. And our clients just report massive shifts after they take that course in their thinking, in how they think about team and how they think about scaling their business. It's just, we can't explain, right, Rebekah? We can't explain the magic and the power of that course. You have to be there. So if you feel the pull, go to ursulainc.co/apply. Rebekah, what else would you say? You get to co-teach this, you're coaching our clients in that program.
I think today's episode and next week's episode might surprise people because you might be sitting on the edge of your seat right now going oh, this is so awesome. What new things do they have to teach us? And I will tell you, when I first started in this business, my biggest fear was that at some point I was going to become too old, that I would become obsolete. Things always change, and they do change. But here's what I will tell you. The things that we're going to talk about, you've probably already heard. And the things that we're going to talk about, I bet you that you've kind of fallen down on 1 or 2 of them because we're human and that's just what we do. But it's tried and true. Pre-pandemic, post-pandemic, whatever is happening, the things that we're going to talk about are things that the same things we talk about with clients, the same things we talk about with big partners. It's the tried and the true. So everything we're going to talk about today and next week is all doable. And we're just here to reignite you and to invite you to re-engage and to stick with a community that is going to help you continue to practice the things that you need to not only have the business that you want, but have the life that you want. We're really big about work-life prosperity, not balance, because if things are balanced, then nothing's moving, but just prosperity in both areas of your life. So I'm excited to talk about this because sometimes people always want the magic bullet. And if you've watched more than one episode with me, you know there's no magic bullets, but I'm going to give it to you straight. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I'm excited about this conversation. And if you haven't yet, too, if you love the show and you keep hanging out with us, definitely leave us a review. It helps other people find the show. And I know a lot of you have been sharing it. So thank you for sharing the show with others, especially in this time. Like, it's still an interesting time in the world. We want to spread as much goodwill as we can and prosperity thinking, right, as Rebekah talked about, so that everyone on the planet feels uplifted and that, it's possible for you as well. So without further ado, so if anyone's listening for the first time and you don't know, you're like, who the heck are you guys? So I want to go back and listen to some of the past episodes to get a better feel for who we are. I've been doing the show since 2017, and we have hundreds and hundreds of episodes and thousands of downloads now. My background is in coaching, sales strategy, all the things to grow your business. And I love playing in the quantum mindset world, which is why, of course, this is the Quantum Revenue Expansion Show. And Rebekah's background, the two of us have coached over 5,000 business owners together. Not together, but in total. We have about 500 years of business experience together. I think, probably like 50 we can say now. And Rebekah has worked.
Hold on, we're just really good.
Maybe 40. I don't know.
We have enough. And we're good.
Yeah. I keep rounding up. That's the word. So what else can I say about Rebekah? She said the word. She's very direct. And that's what you're going to hear from her today. She's coached from startups to $100 million companies to everything in between. We've coached every industry, almost. I don't know. There's a few maybe we haven't touched yet for whatever good reason, right? And it's just a blast. And so you'll also get the cadence of what it's like to work with us. Our clients report that you don't get just one coach, you get two, and you get two very different coaches. You'll see we're pretty yin and yang. Where we're aligned, though, is in our values, how we see the world, and what we really care about. And that's truly making a difference in the world. We want to live a great life. We want to be prosperous, but we want that to have a domino effect out into the world. So that's all I'm going to say about that. We might have to do a different show about the whole making a lot of money so you can give back to organizations you care about and live a great life. That's going to be a different show. So with that, let's just dive in. We're talking about the 7 saboteurs, right? Like what gets in the way for business owners who, are ready to scale and want to scale. So we're going to start at the beginning. Rebekah, before we even dive in, like big picture, let's just say this. And this might be good to go back and listen to the 7 secrets to scale your business, because there we talked about the importance of knowing what you want to create, right? Like knowing, first and foremost, the foundation. You got to know what your revenue goals are. So this isn't a saboteur. This is just kind of the basics. So if you want a 7-figure business, which a lot of clients do, they show up, they're around multi-6 figures. They want to get to 7 figures. If that's what you want, you've got to map it out first. We call it projections. We call it getting it on paper. Like you've got to build that 7-figure business model first. Now, if you're not there yet and you want $100,000 a year, that's $33.33 per month. You'd have to build that model to figure out how to get there, right? So we're assuming that piece is complete. If it's not, definitely go back, and you certainly listen to this, but go back and listen to one of the past shows to listen in on how to build that model, or come and play with us at the next 2X Intensive, because that's what we do. We build your model month template when we start. So first saboteur of the 7, and I'm laughing, by the way, I love alliteration. My pastor recently said that pastors love alliteration. I was like, so do speakers and coaches, just so you know. The 7 saboteurs of scaling your business. Okay, marketing confusion. So many things around marketing that we see get confused. And I know Rebekah has a lot to say about this. I want to say this first, that just because someone else's marketing funnel worked for them does not mean it will work for you. I'm going to make a note of that because Rebekah's going to share some pieces of this, and I want to circle back to this. So Rebekah, dive in. I know you have a lot to say about marketing confusion.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things is we don't understand, or a lot of people get confused about what the pieces of marketing really are. And one of the first things when I meet like a prospective client or a new client is I want to know like how they're reaching their audience. And I get a lot of answers and they sound like, well, I'm uploading a new YouTube video, or I've got my website redone, or I've got a newsletter that I'm going to be putting out, or a podcast. And that's great. The problem is technically that's nurturing, right? So that's great that you have like a new tool or a new asset to give people information about you or what you do. But my question is, how are you actually attracting the eyeball? So what are things that get eyeballs? Jumping on other people's lists, or running ads, SEO, going and speaking to an audience you've never spoken for, being a guest somewhere. So get really clear that people get so confused about, I'm putting all these assets up, but then they don't wonder why they don't have any sales or leads. And it's because what's the thing that drove the eyeball to the asset? So when you're looking at your marketing, be really clear about, is this an asset that nurtures somebody? Or is this an actual way that someone new is going to find me? So that's a really huge distinction. And if you've watched me before, you know, when it comes to marketing, I always love to talk about the dating. It's like dating, right? So same thing. You could get the perfect outfit, do your hair perfectly, have great makeup, practice all the little funny things you're going to say. But if no one knows that you're ready to go out on a date, then you're not going out on any dates. So what are you going to do to get the eyeballs so that you can actually have a conversation with somebody? Now, of course, if you already have a list and you put assets out there, that's great. Okay. You definitely want to always be working your list. We have people that, watch this podcast since 2017. And then all of a sudden they're like, hey, I'm ready to jump in with you guys or whatever. And you want to do that. But I will tell you, business needs new blood always. So you want to have that rotation in and out, in and out. So always ask myself, how am I getting new eyeballs or new blood to look at these assets I'm creating?
Yeah, so good. And here's the thing about marketing that I've found over the years is if I'm not doing marketing that I enjoy, I'm not doing marketing, period. And we see this over and over again with clients. Like they're like hemming and hawing or frustrated, which I totally get. I have hemmed and hawed over things like social media, which is not my friend, right? I don't love social media. I do it because I have to, but I've figured out how to do it over the years, or I've figured out how to get help to get it done. And I'm better at it now. But if that's not your favorite thing, or if there's this belief that you have to be on every social media channel that exists, that's a lie. Like that's not truth. You got to pick one or two that work for you. For some of our clients, it's only one. Maybe they only need to be on LinkedIn, like Instagram, Facebook don't work for them. That's fine. And once you figure that out, that's clarity. We were talking with a new client recently, and the relief for her was palpable. When we're like, well, if you don't like doing video on social media, like she had this belief, or someone had told her that she had to be live on video on social media, like all the time in order for her business to grow. And of course that wasn't working, because if you're doing something that you don't want to do, that's going to come through. And I'm not saying you can't get good at something, but like if it's not a fit, it's just not a fit. When I first launched my business, I did a couple of things. Networking, I networked everywhere, which was good in the beginning because I needed to. And then I was invited to speak on stages, and that continued to grow. And then I had my online, like my email marketing. Those were the three things that I did. And they worked, right? They worked well. But over time, of course, the world has shifted. We're more virtual now. We've expanded and changed. But my newsletter has gone out for, I don't know, more than 15 years now. We had people, I was telling Rebekah, we had people during the pandemic who were reaching out saying, I've been on your list for like 15 years. And I was just checking in on you. And they've been reading that, they've been opening, they've been reading it. So a couple of things. It's do the kind of marketing that you actually enjoy. Otherwise you won't do it, right? And second, marketing's not perfect. marketing's not perfect. Rebekah, how many ways should we be marketing and why is that important?
So I always like 3 ways, completely different ways that you're marketing all the time. Because I kind of liken it to investing in oil wells, right? If you put all your money in one well and you're like, this is it, this is what's going to make me a millionaire, that's very risky. But if you spread your money across several wells, then you actually are mitigating the risk. So we want 3 ways. And, even if you look at your local grocery store, how many ways do they market, right? They're going to like paint the windows. They're going to send a mailer out. You might be on their text messaging, or their email list. Your neighbor's going to tell you that boneless, skinless chicken's $2.99 a pound this week. Right? It's the 3 C's. When you have kids, it's the 3 C's: chicken, cheese, and cereal. You have to have those
right
in the house all the time. But you want to have those different ways. Now, the opposite of that is don't have 10 ways, because it's really hard to spin 10 plates all the time. And we'll talk about that as we keep moving. But I like 3. If you have 3 ways, and that they're different. So 3 ways also doesn't mean Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, right? No. That's called social media. That's just one way. So 3 very different ways that you are getting those eyeballs is what we want.
Yeah. And be consistent. That's the other thing. The opposite of confusion is the 3 ways, and then to be marketing consistently. Right. So high level, for those who are listening, I would dig in and look at that. How many ways are you marketing right now? What needs to shift? Is there marketing that you don't love to do? And we didn't really talk about this, but I wanted to add it in. And are you following someone else's funnel that doesn't work for you? I remember we had another client who, God bless her, because we've all done this. She'd invested a lot of money in a marketing funnel that someone else created. I've been there, and it just wasn't working. And I remember we asked her, and we're like, well, how did you get, like, she'd had some really great months. Where did those other clients come from? For her, she loved being on video. And she's like, oh, I just used to do, Facebook Lives and people would show up. So she'd gone from Facebook Lives, which is very simple, very clear. She was doing it consistently. It was working. To someone said, hey, you have to have this fancy marketing funnel. She puts up this fancy marketing funnel. It doesn't work because it's not connected to her. So I think it's so important to find the marketing that really resonates with you and that you're in alignment with. And it's going to be different for everyone. When we have our clients come to the 2X Intensive, no one has the same marketing. Nobody. And I think it's very relieving when they start to see that it's okay to really market how they want to. Yeah, all right. All right. Anything else you want to say about the marketing piece?
Oh, I have lots to say, but another show, another time, or the 2X.
Yes, or hang out with us there for sure.
Yeah.
So what this ties nicely to is the other saboteur is we don't track our numbers, right? So we might be doing some great marketing. That's awesome, right? Do you know if it's working? What did work? So Rebekah, I know this is like your big jam. So what do you say?
I think this is why a lot of people don't like marketing. Because they don't track, so it's like you put all this effort, and we think if we put marketing out there, then that's dollars in our bank account. And then when we don't have the dollars in our bank account, then we get discouraged about marketing. And I will tell you, and if you are one of these people, please reach out to me, because I've never met one person that just had a marketing idea and chucked it out there, and then all the sales came in consistently month after month after month. Marketing is a dialing in process. And so how do you dial it in? Well, you have to track, right? And there's a lot of things to track in marketing. It's not just like, this is what I did, this is how many sales I got. It's, here's my reach. Here's how many people opted in. Here's how many people I actually connected with. Here's how many people I actually had a conversation with. Here's how many people actually, set an appointment or placed an order. And here's when they actually paid and when actually things got delivered. Before, if you are familiar, I talk about days to cash, right? So there's all these KPIs or all these metrics that are in this marketing sequence that we want to track. When someone says, hey, my marketing's not working, I need your help. Like, I have no idea what to say. You're going to have to walk me through your marketing. And then I'm going to have to say, well, how many people moved from this stage to this stage, or this stage to this stage, or said this and didn't say this? So when you actually learn to track what you're doing, a couple of things happen. Number one, you might find some gaps, right? Like, oh, a link is broken. So I put out this awesome marketing and no one opted in because the link didn't work, or the phone number was wrong, or whatever. So this helps you find the gaps. Also, it tells you where in the process is broken. So I've had a client that's like, oh, well, I hired 2 marketing guys or 2 sales guys to call, and they're not working. It's not working. And it's like, but we know that people calling for you works, right? Other companies have used it. Other people have used it. So what about your process? And right when we dug into it, I found all kinds of things about why it wasn't working. There was no tracking. We weren't managing leads. They only called them one time. Like, so if you put the numbers on the sequencing of how someone would move, a prospect would move through your marketing, then you would know, right? If you were doing ads, I coached someone once and they're like, yeah, ads are dumb. It didn't work. And I'm like, what do you mean it didn't work? They're like, yeah, I only got 2 sales. I put $100 into ads and only got 2 sales.
How much money into ads?
$100, and they only
wow.
got 2 sales. And I was like, but aren't your sales $300 each? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, so what you're saying is you put in $100 and you got $600 and you're pissed. So like right, because they were just thinking 2. I only got 2 sales. What a waste, right? So we have to know where we put in more money or we don't. Another one where I see people not producing, but they're so committed to it is networking. They go to the same networking group over and over again, and they never get any sales, but then they just keep going. So a couple of things are happening. Either the networking group doesn't have their target market or doesn't have any joint venture possibilities or affiliate possibilities, or they don't ever ask, right? Or it's not the right, yeah. So, but they keep going, right? Because the lunch is good, or it's like a good social time. Like
social, it's mostly the social, right? I love networking for that reason.
Yeah, and there's so many places to network. So find the networking place that works. If I'm networking somewhere every week and I don't get like a good lead or a sale within 60 days, I'm not going to that networking anymore. If I'm going once a month, I'll go 90 days, and I better have, like, as long as I'm doing what I'm supposed to, right? Like doing the things to get the leads or whatever. So we just don't track. We think, oh, if I'm just really busy, which we'll talk about that coming up, then I should get the money. It's an unconscious thing, guys. You've got to be so conscious. Mm-hmm. When McDonald's puts out the McRib or the Shamrock Shake or the Monopoly game or whatever, do you think they just like came up with that? Like, we should do that Monopoly game next month. Yeah, let's just throw that together. It is so targeted. It is so put together with numbers. It's so planted. Most things you see on the news, most things you read in everything, I mean, it's so planted, but they use numbers, right? And they use cycles and sequences to do that. Now you might be saying like, I'm going to just click off this podcast right now because this sounds really hard, or this sounds like a lot of work. And I will tell you, it's not hard. And Ursula said it, when you do things that you enjoy, when you really enjoy connecting or really enjoy serving, whether your product or service, if you're very clear about what it does, you might have heard me say this before, solves a problem, meets a need. When you're clear about that, it's not that hard. Right. So, put the time in to track what the expectations are from your marketing campaigns. So you know what's working, what's not working, where to push in more, where to just adjust more, where to fill in a gap. Because those are the things that feed you forever. A business without leads is no business. And a business with super random leads and we don't know where they come from or how we get them turns into a burnt out business owner. Yeah. So take the time to make sure you know where to get the new eyeballs, how they come, and how to track them to get more. And we work into projections of revenue from there.
And for someone who's going, like their eyeballs are rolling back in their heads, like, how do I even do this, or where? I want to be clear, like you can do some amazing tracking on an Excel spreadsheet, a simple Excel spreadsheet. And then if you're still like, I have no idea how to do it, go to fiverr.com, fiverr.com, right? You can find somebody there who could build a beautiful spreadsheet for you for marketing tracking, or you could probably Google it and download one for free. Like there's so much available to us right now and we forget. So just take that extra step and figure out how to make it easy to track, because that, like, once you know how to track, this is what Rebekah's sharing, you can reverse engineer how to get to your next level. That's how important it is. And then you have your formula, right? That's your success formula to get there. All right. So I'm feeling like we want to go to target market next. Do you want to go to target market next?
Yeah, let's do it.
Because then we're going to wrap up with target market, and then we'll save the other 4 for the next show. All right. So marketing, of course, ties to the target market. And you might have thought, well, we should start there. But the truth is, target market's a dialing in process as well. And and they're both just as important. So the fact that one came from the other is not more important. We wanted to lay the foundation of what marketing is and how to make it happen in your business and what it's not, and how to be consistent with it and how to track it. What we find, though, is when a lot of clients show up in our world, they've got an idea of who their target market is or who they'd like it to be, but it's not crystal clear, and or they're allowing in a lot of clients or customers who are not their target market, which is causing them to really hate their business, right, Rebekah? I feel like we see that a lot of burnout. And because this ties to, I'm not charging enough, I'm not, fill in the blank. So Rebekah, where do we even begin with target market?
Well, I think too, like, it's the who, like the experience that your target market's having, not like necessarily who they are. Yeah. Because too many times it's like, well, my target market is women 45 to 55. They have a couple of kids. They have their household income is over 100,000. They and it just kind of stops there. And it's like, you have to know what problem you solve or what need you meet, right, with your product or your service. And your target market has to know that too. And we miss that, because that's where you're going to, like, when you put up your nurturing, right, you've got to get relatable to the person you're trying to sell. No one wants to be sold something that they don't understand or think that they need, because now you just look like a pushy salesperson. There's no convincing. So the better that you understand what your target market is going through, what their experiences are, and we'll talk about this next on the value versus price, but you really got to understand what the issue is. And, I've heard here, I'll just tell the story again really quick. I don't know if we've heard it before, but I was researching a car that I wanted, and I was having a hard time finding it because of the color. And I had a buddy who worked with all the dealers in the Western United States. And he's like, I was telling him I couldn't find this particular car. And he's like, oh, I'll help you find it. Like, he was up for the challenge, right? He was going to prove his expertise. So we went around and around, and a couple of days later, he's like, hey, I found your car. And I'm like, you did? And I'm like, awesome. How much is it? And the price, because I do a lot of research, wasn't landing with me. I'm like, no, it can't be the same car. It's like, it's more money. And then I ended up finding the car, and I'm like, oh, I found one in LA. I'm going to go pick it up. He goes, well, no, I've got this car. And I'm like, but your car. And so we couldn't figure it out. So he's like, give me the VIN number of the car you're going to buy. So I give it to him, and he comes back the next day. He's like, I figured it out. The one that I'm getting you has video monitors in the headrests. And I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, I don't want that. And he's like, but it's a $3,000 value, and I'm getting it for you for $1,500. And I'm like, that's nice, but I don't want video monitors. And he argued with me, because in his mind, he was getting me something for 50% off. And what he didn't understand is I was zero related to having video monitors in my car. Why? Why would I not want those? Well, 2 reasons. I don't have any young children. Therefore, there's no one to entertain in my back seat. Number 2, I never ride in the backseat of my own car. I'm actually driving it. So again, no need for video monitors. And he was just so upset with me and really took it personally, because again, in his mind, he was giving me a discount. But what he wasn't listening to is he was costing me more money because I was zero related to this feature in my car. Now, if I would have had young kids, would have been, oh yeah, that I'm taking it. 50% off those video monitors, I'm taking it. And that's just a great example of when we don't get our target market. We don't understand them. We're so clear about what we offer, but we've totally missed the mark on connecting and getting related to what their experience is. If you can get connected to somebody and what their experience is, it's a no-brainer. If I cut my finger off, I'm not like, it's a no-brainer. I'm going to a doctor. They're solving my problem. We're very related on what's happening. I'm in a lot of pain. I need to be able to point at people and he can fix that. So, that's how easy sales can be, but you've got to be selling to the right person. And so a lot of times we completely miss the experience that our target market is having. So that's what messes up the way that we market, and that messes up the way that we nurture to them. So it's just super important to get to know who you're trying to sell and make sure that it's a marriage between the product and the service and the person.
Right. Such a great example. All the great examples. Rebekah loves to tell stories, use metaphors. So good.
I will metaphor you to death.
Well, and in our own business, we experienced that, right? When the recession hit, not the recession, there was the recession, then the pandemic. When the pandemic hit, we had this big kind of moment of, what are we being called to do? Like, do we shut the business down? What's going to happen? And as we were talking to clients, we realized a couple things. One, we'd offered sales camp for years and a coaching program that followed it. And while that had been amazing, a lot of our clients were asking for next level. And when we started to really tune in, and believe me, I'd been hearing this for a long time. I was like, we need to evolve and expand. Our clients wanted to scale their businesses, right? They wanted to get to the next, they knew how to sell. They took sales camp all the years ago. They were doing great, but now it's like, how do I grow? How do I add people to my team? What do I do? And so our clients were telling us, right? And we started to have more and more conversations, and I started talking about the 2X intensive, and clients said, oh my gosh, the second you offer that, let me know. And because it was meeting their next level, they had a problem. They'd grown to a certain size. They wanted to scale. In fact, recently we'd sent out an email. And part of the email, right, this is marketing, part of the email said, if this is you, if your business is over 6 figures, if you have one person on your team and you're looking to 2X or more your revenue right now, let us know, reach out to us, want to help you do it. And it was like, someone said to us, right, Rebekah, one of our clients reached out and said, that email spoke directly to me. I thought you were saying it to me. They said that. And then they jumped into 2X. They're like, we didn't even know you had this. It's so exciting. And are continuing on with us in one of our coaching programs. So I share that because when you hone in that much, right, it starts to get really clear. Because we're not marketing to startups anymore. We have a few that might sneak in if they have phenomenal sales experience, but our clients have multi-6-figure, at least over 100,000 in revenue. They know they want to get to the next level, and they're in alignment with our values, right? That's the other piece we haven't really talked about, but our values being about community, prosperity, family, spirituality, like all of those pieces of who we are, that's who we attract. And the same is for you. Like your target market shares your values. And you just need to get super clear on the problem you solve and the need you meet, as Rebekah said. All right, we covered a lot of ground already. So this is already a 30-minute show, Rebekah. So we got to wrap this up. We got to save the rest for next week. And Rebekah mentioned a little bit about, time and value versus price. Those are some of the topics we're going to talk about next week when you join us. So for now, we're going to sign off. Thanks for hanging out with us. Rebekah, what do you want to just say final words before we sign off?
Just get this stuff done, and then we'll see you next week, and then we'll clean it all up. It'll be fun.
Perfect. We'll do some homework. That's a great plan. Do some homework around what we talked about this week. Join us next week. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for listening. We'll see you soon. Bye for now.
Thank you for joining us today. And if you are ready to make your next quantum leap, let's do it. Ursula invites you to join us at the 2X Intensive. Go to salescoachnow.com/apply. Don't forget to leave us a review on your favorite podcast app.